Hello there, Simon Jackson from the FastTrack COVID-19 Working From Home Response. And today I'm lucky to have Amir rejoining us, and today for an excellent presentation on identity and device security best practices. This is a workshop that Amir has run many times for customers, and I've seen many times as well, and each time I learn something new from it. So Amir, thank you very much for your time today, and over to you.
Thank you, Simon. Yeah, thank you, everyone, watching this. Today I'm going to talk about identity and security, device security, based on Microsoft best practices. When you finish, we go through the next steps, talk about what you can start with today, next week, next month. So it's like, let's go through why we identity security, especially in this time work from home scenario, is important and how it can help us. When we talk about security, so the way we look at security, we have these four pillars. We want to cover these four pillars, which is users, devices, data, and the apps, right? So we have a user who is working on a device and the app on that device to access our resources, which is going to be Office 365, SaaS apps, or any other things. So the way we manage security here is going to be through identity. The traditional way to access these apps is like you may have different apps in your organization. You may have different even credential for each. This is the traditional, right? You connect to ServiceNow, you have different credential, Windows different, and Office 365 maybe different. But when we move to Azure AD or we start using Azure AD, we have Azure AD as a new control plane here. So we have on-prem access control through Azure AD, identity in Azure AD. We have control to cloud apps, which is not just Office 365. Any SaaS apps integrated with Azure AD can be go through this, and then other apps in the cloud. That again, we control access those again with the single identity, which is in Azure AD. Our BYOD center devices again. You can use this benefit with the control in Azure AD to access our resources, and then we have customer and partners also. We can manage them through B2B scenarios, for example. We are not just when we talk about Azure AD as new control plane, doesn't mean we have to be on authentication happen on Azure AD. So you can have different IDP like Ping Federate, Facebook, any other and then use still Azure AD for to get the benefit of this new control plane. How Azure AD is going to help? Azure AD, so we have conditional access, which is like we use it, we call it like this. Conditional access is the main part of the zero trust network in Microsoft. The way Microsoft manages security here. So how, if you see here, so we have we set condition. So we talk about the importance of this later, but why and how we use it is because it's going to be focused on conditional access. That's why I'm showing this here. So we have a lot of data as our for the machine learning to use to process it in Azure, and then so we can set condition based on different. So if you remember, I talked about the four pillars was user, devices, apps, and resources, right? So that's we can set condition for all of this. So we have the condition, we have the source of it's like with different devices here. We have location, we have type of apps, and we have IDP here. And based on this, we can control the access, right? When we talk about control of access to cloud app, Microsoft 365, we have other control through cloud app security. We have also used this to control our on-prem access, right? Now, the level of control is, we have different levels. It's not just allow or block. So we can allow with limited access based on the MFA, based on the password reset, or blocking some sort of like legacy authentication. And how we do this, we have a lot of features available to control this. We have a lot of signals available. So as you see here on the left, we have the signal. On the middle, we have the decision maker, which is our Azure AD, and then right is the enforcement we can put in place. There is a lot. It's not just Azure AD, as you see here, is our decision maker, or it's like this is where we control. And on the left, you see we have information about device come from different products like Defender ATP, Intune, or other solutions. And then we have, again, different user risk here coming from different sources again. And then on the left, on the right, we have the products and what type of control we can have, right? So yeah, that is how this new control plane we talked about is going to work, and how where the data is coming to this, and then how we control the access or enforce the policies. So we started with identity. I mentioned this, the main thing, the main part of this security is like we are focusing on identity, right? So we have a user is working from home. We want to make sure the user is secure. Our job in IT, I think, is to make sure the users are protected, right? So the user may have a simple password or may not. We don't know the user's password to do anything on that, but at least we want to make sure we have some security in place to protect them. Why? This is just 1 month of report. We have 4.8 billion breach replay attack. We have 270,000 compromised accounts, right, detected in 1 month. So this is through password spray attack. And then we have phishing email. How these are connected together. So let's say, what is breach replay? Right? You sign into a website, third-party sites, or register your account somewhere using your corporate accounts and password. And wherever you sign in or sign up for a service, that may be the service may be compromised. The username and password all available on dark web. Now, what happened is the hackers buy or get it free. They test those credentials against cloud resource, cloud like Azure AD, let's say Azure AD. So when you do this, you're replaying all those breaches to find one user. If your business has 10,000 users, what in breach replay we need or hacker need is just one successful login, right? If you log in, you can download the address book, and then using the address book, you have the email address of all users. And the next step is using just password spray attack, which is using common password. For, let's say, I want to test the common password, like welcome123, password 123, summer 2018-19, which we know still some users still use them against. So I use these passwords against all those users I downloaded from address book. And from here, from the statistics, we can tell it's like 1% success rate. For 10,000 users, you may get 100 users, sign credential of 100 users, and this is where we start to do phishing attack, which is going to be targeted phishing attack, and we try to access to more users because we know read the emails, to do the targeting here, and then we try to get you more users' password by asking them to change the password or the way you see in the market. So what's common here? So from a start, from breach replay to phishing, the hackers is looking for the passwords. And as you see here, 80% of network intrusion is to compromise the user credential, right? So it's like, so if we just control that part, we minimize 81% of those intrusions. We talked about why identity security is important. We talked about a different type of attacks. And now, okay, let's start how to secure our environment. We have a security score in Office or in Azure AD portal, especially because we talk about identity. Let's focus on the identity security. But to check where I am today, you can go to security.microsoft.com and check your score. This is where you can start with to see at least how is your security set up. It's like, so you get the visibility of, let's just run it.
So this would be an administrator, Amir, that would be running this.
Yes. Yeah. So you can see here, like, for example, identity score 100 and 203, data, device, apps, and other things. But because we are focusing on identity today, let me just focus on identity part, which is, identity is here. We can control, we can also start from here. But if it's just identity, I can go to my Azure AD portal, and then under security, I have identity secure score. It's exactly, this data is same as the other portal. So, but here we just have, here we have everything. Here is just Azure AD portal, like 102 out of 203. Now, when I go here, so you may see you are 50, 60, 80, 200, whatever you are. The important thing is you should have a plan to increase it. I don't tell just plan it to be next day, next month to be 200, but at least you can have some sort of target to increase some of them, get more score from here, because these are the key area. It can help you protect your identity. When you go here, what you see, you can, for example, you can sort it by maximum score here and see which one is give you the maximum score if you enable it. And if I just do this, see, and just as you can see here, the max score is for MFA for admin roles, right? So that's, I think, obvious. So you may not see by default when you go current score, you can go to columns and then add more columns if you want. So now this is, if someone asks me, have you enabled sign-in risk policy? I can tell, okay, my current score is 0, so no, I haven't. I don't need to go to settings to find it. I just come here, okay, I don't have sign-in risk policy enabled. Or am I blocking, for example, let's say legacy authentication? I have 19 out of 20. Yeah, I have almost done for most of the users, right? So this is easy. You can tell where you are today. And okay, that's okay. I want to get the score here. How can I get it? I go here, and then it's the instruction is here, right? And if you have other third-party solution for that, again, it's just for auditing or whatever reason you want for reporting, you can ignore it, or you can have it. I have third-party solution for this, for example.
Terrific way just to get a very immediate and central view of the overall rating, security rating of an enterprise.
Yes, yeah, it's like, I mean, these are the key one. I say, I mean, it's not all, but at least if you enable this, like, for example, if you have MFA for admin, if you have MFA for user, if you block legacy authentication, you actually get by just these three, you get like 120, right? So, and there are other things here, but some of them easy. And when you look at this, there are user impact and implementation costs. Right. So when you go, if you go here, for example, you see this 50 score is user impact is low. So the one with user impact low is actually it's not impacting user, because it's just impacting admin. Right. So, but for the when we talk about multi-factor authentication for users, it's high impact for users, right? You want to have communication, you have maybe training, share something with the user to make sure they are how to register for MFA, like that, right? So
but it has a big impact.
Yeah. Start securing your users, devices, and app data. So where to start? So we check the score. We want to make sure the password hash sync is enabled if we are using hybrid identity, right? Password hash sync. The reason we recommend this to be enabled is, like we talked about, breach replay and password spray attack, those stuff. So the breach replay is the using the actually credential already leaked. So when you have password hash sync enabled, you let Azure AD to use to detect the leaked credential, right? You go to Azure AD report, you can tell, okay, the user is risky and user password is leaked. So that is where that's the benefit of enabling password hash sync. Plus, you get a failover if your on-prem AD or on-prem infrastructure or IDP is down. You can switch your authentication. And we want to have non-global admin role as much as we can, right? We don't need to have everyone global admin. Minimize, keep it under 5 is the recommended. But again, based on the size of the company, you may have more. Again, there is, if you are on, like, for example, P2, you can use PIM to just-in-time admin or just enough admin, like that. So it's just get the right when you need it to do the admin task. If not, just let it to be normal user. And have the MFA for admins, which is easy one. Just if you don't have, just enable it and just make sure follow the break glass account rules. So at least just in case if you need something, you need to back to your Azure AD, follow this to have that accounts ready. After this, we start going to setting up our secure cloud infrastructure, which is like we talk about security foundation, for identity and MFA, and then application. We talk about device here, and then we talk about Microsoft Golden 365 Golden config, which we go through all of this, and we add security layers, more layers to our security. Like you can talk about it's like adding device, adding password, updating our password policy, and talking about risk with identity for risk management with on the identity protection, and going through some features like PIM, which is for, I mean, some of them are P2, but most of these are on P1. If you are not on P1 or P2 license or EMS E3, E5, its security default is doing all of this for you. Just enabling security default is enabling all of this. But the reason in enterprise you may not want to security because you may need more granular control over the settings. So that's why you want to follow this. Now, set up secure cloud infrastructure. What we have here. So we want to have MFA. I mean, it's again continue from the previous slide. We start MFA for a privileged role, service management, and end user, and here we see what are these. Right. So we have again these available. I show you there is actually a guideline for this. You can easily enable this, but I mean, just when you enable MFA, for everything, you have just you have the different roles you want to enable, and you see what you need to be enabled, and of course, different maybe settings for end users or privileged role, or again, you may want for as an example, admin, you may want to force them always MFA when they access like some resources are critical. For end users, you may have different sort of MFA requirement, like if the user doesn't trust the device, you don't want to do MFA like that. And legacy authentication protocol to be blocked. This is very important. We talk a lot about this, but what is legacy authentication protocol? POP3 IMAP SMTP as an example, as you see here. And when you are using some application, which like let's say, for example, like Office 2010, you're still using legacy authentication. So if you block it, actually you're blocking Office 2010, right? So there's some you want to make sure you're ready for that. Blocking legacy authentication is very important here, because if you don't, first of all, hackers, all those attacks I was showing you, it's all using legacy authentication on most of them. It's the attacker is not going to use modern authentication to access and test if your password is leaked or not, right? They always use legacy authentication, because with this, you don't get like, if you have MFA enabled, MFA is not going to help here, because legacy is not going through that flow. It's going to be different. The next part is the app. So if you have any app integrated, or like you have built-in security mechanism, right? Built-in identity provider in the app, or if you're using other identity provider, you can integrate them with Azure AD to get benefit of, as I mentioned, new control plane. So if you have your identity on Azure AD and every user is going to use this, then you can use this to bring your app here and then get the benefit of like secure access through conditional access to your SaaS apps, like, using Azure AD. And you can get the single sign-on benefit with Azure AD, and then you just get the app in the My Apps portal for all users. Like the way you go to the users, you get used to, you go to myapps.microsoft.com to access all apps available, like Office 365 mainly. But if you have SaaS apps, again, that is again single location. They can go there and then access the application. And again, because we have other, I mean, if you go back to that zero trust network model or conditional access benefit we get, so all available to your SaaS apps here. There are other things like governance and auditing and other things like user provisioning. Like, for example, if your app support user provisioning, so then you get the you don't have to worry about the provisioning users in your SaaS apps. You can just automate it through Azure AD user provisioning and deprovisioning, and then self-service management to access the app. All is going to be available to users. If you have on-prem apps, still you can use again another product, Azure AD App Proxy. So you get the same benefit. You have App Proxy. You don't need VPN to access your on-prem resources. You just use App Proxy to access your on-prem. So you there is no inbound traffic requirement for this, just outbound traffic. So you save at least your number of VPN connection here, and also you get again SSO, conditional access, and all other benefits here. Another part of this that 4-pillar was device. So when we talk about access to resources from the device, device management, so we can control the user access to the resources using device status, right? So let's say if the machine is domain join, for example, or we call it hybrid join, or the machine is managed by MDM like Intune and it's compliant, the user can access. Or sometimes you have bring your own scenario. The user is using the personal iPhone or Android phone to access Office 365 services or your SaaS apps, right? So what you don't want to force user to enroll the device under management. So you just, okay, you control the app and you containerize the app with your work and personal, segregate them. And then when the user access anything on any corporate data, it's going to be controlled by conditional access. Okay, the user can access if the app is managed, and then you get the DLP on copy paste restriction, download restrictions, so on. That's the device part of this conditional access. Talked about the golden config, so let's cover this one. Let's say we have 3 different level of security: baseline, sensitive, highly regulated. Based on the different definition here, we see like you have maybe highly classified information or some sensitive information, or the other information you have, right? So you want to protect it, and you may want a different level of security based on for this. We have a recommendation. We have like guideline here. I show you, but the thing is like we want to at least to make sure we have the baseline security is already in place, right? You may want more, it's okay, but at least baseline is something you want to consider it to have it for users. Or if you don't want, at least you can check the list what is there, and then you have a reason if you don't want to have it enabled. As you see here, we have the baseline, sensitive, highly regulated here, and then we have form factor, and then we have the control, and we have licensing here too. So here we have whenever we talk about risk, we see there is P2 features. Other than that, everything can be achieved using P1, right? So if we talk about like block client that don't support, don't use modern authentication here, which is block legacy authentication, you see this is recommended for baseline sensitive, highly regulated, but for example, require compliant PC and mobile devices coming from here, requiring compliant PC here, and there is other features here like device policy, app protection policy like that here. This is how you can read it, but let me go to the site and show you what else we have. aka.msm365 golden config. Now, I go to this page, common identity. This is where you find this slide. And let's say I highlighted this one, block client that don't support modern authentication. So this is the page, right? I click on this. It has the instruction how to do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what is your assignment? What is your access control? Done. Right? So everything you see here has a guide here, so you know how to enable it. And this, again, there is another policy for guests and external users highlighted here. So it's on top of the previous one. And if you have any recommendation, looking for any recommendation for Teams access, again, we have this, which is explaining what change needs to be done for Teams here for the existing policy, because some of them are saying just you may add more application here. And then for Exchange Online, you see this one, which is, again, come to Exchange Active Sync clients to be blocked, and then SharePoint Online. So we actually have the config recommendation configuration for your conditional access for common, guest, Teams, Exchange, and SharePoint, right? And with detailed explanation of everything. This is the golden config.
So all the information's there. It's just drilling into it and working out what policies to apply for which workloads.
Yeah, exactly. We want to add more security layers here. So you want to start users with MFA registration, right? So just before doing this, I recommend to have this enabled, combined registration, because with the, one of the recommendation you see in that identity security score is self-service password reset to be enabled. Self-service password reset is not just to save admin's time to reduce help desk time for password reset. Is just when there is if we detect a high risk user or high risk sign-in, we can force user to change the password, for example. Sorry, high risk users actually. When we see high risk users, we can force the user to change the password, right? So, okay, this user is risky, we want to force it. But if you don't have self-service password reset enabled, so the only option is the user get blocked and user have to call service desk to get the password changed, right? That's why we recommend to have it enabled. But now why I'm bringing it here. So combined registration, when you register for MFA, you register your phone number on Microsoft Authenticator app, for example. But when you want to do SSPR registration, again, you have to enter your phone number. That's by, this is the way it's designed by default. But if you enable this feature, so you register once. If you enter your phone number for MFA, that can be used for SSPR. If you register for SSPR, that can be used for MFA, right? So that's why we recommend to have this enabled, and you get other benefits. I mean, it's not all listed here. It's not just this. There is more, like if you want to have passwordless audit authenticator or some other features, or like if you want to have control the registration security info registration for the end users, like we talk about it later again. You need this to be enabled. So good to have it enabled. And we talked about the password, right? Common password. So if you wanna that password spray attack is using the common password and hackers use those accounts downloaded, as I mentioned, used to test with the common password. Now, if you go to Office 365, let's say you Azure AD, let's say you have password right back enabled, right? So you want to change your password, do the SSPR, and then use a common password. Azure AD is going to block you using the common password, right? So this means you cannot change the password to common password on Azure AD and then write it back. But if you change the password on-prem and then on your AD, and then it will be synced to Azure AD. So it means you can use the still common password. What we can do, we can have the password protection is another feature. You can have your own password added to the list plus the common password, and then that is just what you need is you enable that feature, install the agent in your domain controller, and then when your service desk or user is going to reset the password, that is going to be that you get that benefit on-prem, right? So then you cannot change the password to common password, right? So that's how we can enable it. It's in security password protection. You just get this. You get a smart lockout also here, which means instead of locking out the user accounts in Azure AD, you just enable it. It's going to that session. The hacker is trying to get the password get locked instead of the accounts on the Azure AD gets locked. The total user accounts get locked. But when you go to Azure AD in the security authentication method password protection, you can just enable password protection for Windows Server Active Directory, yes, and then you can put it in audit mode or enforcement, right? So it's if you may want to start with audit mode to see, and you want to later collect the logs and see if there is how many password is going to be tried to be common password, for example, right? This is a good feature to block common password to be used on your AD and Azure AD. A layer of control was we can add is the managing risk. This risk is part of Azure AD identity protection, which is P2 features. But when you have that in place, so you get the control over like user. I mean, we get using machine learning information here. We we get the risk, collect the risk associated to the user, and then you can use those risk information or type of risk in conditional access again to block or force MFA or do whatever we want it available in conditional access to do, right? And with this, I mean, like as I mentioned, like user risk policy, is it high? You can force the user to change the password. But the other condition here is like you are using anonymous IP address or you are using unfamiliar location, impossible travel, like situation there. The user connects from Australia now and then 5 minutes later connects from Europe. Right? So it's like impossible travel. Or user, it may be false positive. User may did the VPN, but again, it's something impossible travel, right? That's a risk, we can manage it. Is listed here. What we discussed is like what to do today. And next week, next month, that's again started like score, MFA for admin, password hashing, password protection in audit mode, lockout for ADFS, and modern password policy based on the guidance. So password policy is like, we don't recommend password expiry. When you have this security in place, password expiry is something, Microsoft is moved to 1 year password change, but again, Microsoft, our recommendation is remove the password expiry. We get to there, but again, in preparation is like you have to make sure your identity is secured enough, and because we don't want user get used to changing the password, they don't need it. Like if you have anything like all security in place, end of the day, we want to have like, even if I know password, if someone might know my password, doesn't matter. Password doesn't matter. That's the message we want to send. Your password, whatever it is, you then not access to anything unless you meet other conditions. That's very
Still
important.
can't get in, even with the password.
Yeah. Password doesn't matter. That's actually the message. So because password is, in future we may not even have to set the password, but today we set the password. But we want to see the password is password is not what you need to access the resources, right? You need more things. Well, MFA is one thing, but device and all other stuff I showed in conditional access is there to make sure the password is not enough.
It starts with the identity secure score and go-tos. There are 6 items there to check today that customers could check straight away. Nice.
Yeah. So and then it goes to, the next slide. This one is showing which one is P2. That's why I just have it here. If I go to the next one, is showing actually better presentation. So it's like, we have this again today, and then it's going to be legacy authentication is just reviewing the log for legacy authentication. I show you, I talk more about legacy authentication now and why it's important, and then SaaS apps integration and device registration, and also talk about like conditional access policy in place for, it's as in report only mode for the scenario you want to test it. I talk about report only mode 2, and then application consent is like by default your application consent is enabled. So application consent is like you install application, your user install application on the phone, for example, or on the PC. The application is going to help user to organize his calendar. So you install the application says, okay, I need access to your calendar, and then you say okay, and then when you log in with your Azure AD, the application says okay. The Azure AD says, do you want to give consent to this app to access on your calendar? And say yes. What happened here is the app can access the user's calendar on behalf of the user, even when the user is not running the app, for example, right? So this sometimes we need it, but if we want to just a recommendation is disable this feature. If the user need it, they can ask admin. But now we have a new feature which you can disable it, but this feature is recently added, so you can let the user to email admin. When you request consent go to admin, and admin can approve it for organization, right? So that's how it works. So it's admin centrally can manage the consent. So it's not.
Wow, some more security in depth.
Yeah.
If you
so
want to restrict what other apps, third-party apps, might be accessing.
Okay. You because user is trying to be productive to install something to get something, but he doesn't but that app may be a malware or like downloading all users information, sending somewhere else. Who knows, right? So that's why we need to get the consent, but better the consent to be approved by admin.
Yep, I was saying everything.
Yeah, and password protection, I talked about it. And from audit mode, we can go to enforce mode, and then we can have, we can review the logs, and then whatever we had in reporting only, now we can review them and get them enforced. But let's go to, I talked about legacy auth. So I want to show you what is this and why it's important. As I said, you have MFA in place, but you don't block legacy authentication, and then it means hackers still can test and access the user. Like with SMTP or IMAP, you connect and download emails. Right? You see the user there, like that. All right. So we want to block that. how to find if there is a legacy authentication in our sign-in logs. Let's do this. I go to sign-in logs. So what I need to do to find the legacy auth is I can go to add filter here, and then just go to client app, and under client app, I select some of the protocol I mentioned, right? So I go to
IMAP,
yeah,
SMTP,
SMTP, IMAP, right? So these are, just pick up this. There is other clients too, but I pick up this one too. And I go here. This is for last 24 hours. I see I have 3 failure, 1 success, right? And if I open, for example, this one, I can tell this is the user, this is the time, this is the resources the user tried to access, right? Let's go to conditional access because that's where I want. I can, if I have conditional access in place here, I can have like, okay, I want to block it. I have conditional access already in place in report only mode, and show you this is, I think, before when I enabled that. Yeah, this one. So I have a block legacy authentication here, which blocked me here. So that failure is because of I have this in place. The conditional access policy blocked, right? So this user couldn't log in. And if I go here, I want to show you one more thing. That sign-in logs, that is where you can see where the sign-in coming from for legacy authentication. That is, I say, just go check it today, because I talk to customer and they go here and see, oh, there is a lot of sign-ins happening here, and they say, okay, why you have too many users logging with SMTP or IMAP? And say, okay, I don't know. Yes. And this is where they start looking at it. They can start thinking of how to block this, right? So you shouldn't normally see anything here. I mean, especially successful. With ADFS, it's a bit different, but again, you may want to have extra settings on your ADFS server. There is some exception. When we create conditional access, we can always add exception. Let's say, for example, you have a scanner which does a scan to email. Scan to email, you may use SMTP authentication. So you can go to this conditional access. Okay, I add this to exclusion, or I have a payroll system, scan through SMTP, authenticate through SMTP, and send a payslip, for example. That's okay. I mean, okay. I mean, it's up to you if it's okay or not, but at least you can exclude it. But with the conditional access, I can, when I go, let's say I want to block legacy authentication, right? So in that M3CL golden config, exact step is there. So I'm not focusing on the steps. I just want to show you something else. Let's say on the report only part, block legacy auth. I go here and I can tell all users, and I can go to exclude and exclude, let's say, few users here. And I am focusing on Exchange Online here. Right, so I do this and condition. So my condition here is client app. Yes, so I don't want to block this. I don't want to do this. Just this other client is legacy. Right. So I selected other clients, all users, and I go to grants. I say block access. Right? That's it. So this will block legacy authentication. But I don't want, if I turn it on, immediately Outlook 2010 get blocked. All SMTP, IMAP, POP3 is going to be blocked. But if you want to see what is actually impact, I run it in report only, create it, right? So when I do this, how can I track what's the result? So that conditional access report only is going to show me in the sign-in, I can go to the sign-in logs as I was before, and if there is any policy to report only, I can say, okay, this is blocked in report only. But now, what else we can do? If now I have this enabled in report only mode, I want to get insights. Right? I go to workbook. So to get to the workbook, when you go, you need log analytics workspace, right? So it's that's the only requirement. But when I have this, I go to conditional access insight. And what I have here, I can go to conditional access policy. Let's just, I don't want any of these. These are the enabled policy. I just want to go the one which is report only, right? So I just get this one, report only. I have different layout blocking. Let's just do this too. And last 24 hours, I have 3 failure for conditional access, report only, 4 legacy auth. So let's see who are these 3 users. And this, I have these 3 users signed in using legacy auth, right? So, and I have the detail here to access Exchange Online result failure. So this is what I'm trying to show you. So if you want to have any conditional access in place, not just for legacy authentication, any type of conditional access you want to have, just enable in report only, and then you get the result here and see, okay, if I enable this, I have 5 users I have to worry about. Or you may see a lot more, but if you see a lot more, the question may come of, okay, why this user is using this, right? This user always should like Outlook, it should be more than not, right? So that's, I mean, it's just give you insight, right? I mean, what you want to do with it, it's up to you. When you enable conditional access policy in report only mode, just there is a note. I mean, you make sure it, for the device compliance state is you make the user get prompt. So be careful about that one. Just for devices, said there is a page in docs. I don't have time to go through that, but if we're going to enable this for device compliance state, please read the docs page first. There is a note there explaining what you need to consider when you do this. Other than that, all good. You can just enable in report only mode. Okay, so that's the conditional access part, especially the report only mode, which wasn't available 6 months ago, right? So now you get that easily. You can get inside. The other option report you have, this is not part of the log analytics, just it's available for everyone. So you just go here and then authentication method activity. If you want to see how many users registered for MFA, for self-service password reset, you get the insight here, right? So it's just go there, get some information about registration and the usage also here. The rest is next step. So there are links. We can add the links in the comments when we upload it. Yeah. So it's one of the things actually is the one I want to show you is MFA end user adoption kit. Right. This one is actually helpful with because when you want to start enabling MFA for your end users, so you want to prepare users, communicate with them about the change, how to register in MFA like that. So when this actually give you what you need, some comes ready for you. You can just customize with your company branding, for example, and share with your users how to register and all you need for your end users, all materials. Just download this. And this is just one of the example. This is one of the example from this, but yeah, you get the template ready. You just add your company name and logo. That's it, and share with your users. This how to register. Everything is there. So you just need to.
A great time saver for admins who don't want to have to reinvent the wheel every time. Here are some starting points, and you can go from there.
This, you know how to register. Yes, and it's just some short video for your end users. Right?
Excellent.
Yeah, so that's about identity security. Hopefully, it was helpful. It's going to help.
Brilliant, man. Again, you present this information so well, and you obviously have such a depth of knowledge of this stuff. Terrific presentation. Thank you so much, Amir. That is really, really well done. Thank you. We will put the links in the description of this video. Amir works for the FastTrack Centre out of Australia for the India, Australia and New Zealand region. So Amir is available to our customers. So if you have any questions for us, please do let us know. As you can probably tell, Amir has a lot more to tell you. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Amir? You needed to hold yourself back there a couple of times, I could tell.
Thanks,
Terrific presentation, Amir. Thank you very much, mate.
You're welcome. Yeah.
See you later.
Stay safe. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
You too, mate. Bye.